Hello everyone, today I'm sharing a story, Renegade Immortal, for anyone looking to improve their English skills. Let's to listen. As the carriage quickly rolled along the road, Wang Lin's body bounced with the uneven ground. In his arms was the package that contained all of his parents' hopes. He was leaving the village he had lived in for 15 years. The trip wouldn't be a short one. Wang Lin lied down and fell asleep in the carriage. Not knowing how much time had passed, he was gently nudged. He opened his eyes to look up to see fourth uncle, who looked at him smiling and asked, "Tiju, how do you feel about leaving home for the first time?" Wang Lin noticed that the carriage had stopped and smiled. "Not much to say, just a little anxious since I don't know if I will be selected by the Immortals or not." Fourth uncle let out a laugh and patted Tiju's shoulder saying, "Okay, don't overthink it. This is uncle's house. You go rest first, then I'll take you to the family tomorrow morning." When he climbed off the carriage, Wang Lin was in front of a tile-roofed house. He then followed fourth uncle to a room. Wang Lin sat on the bed, unable to sleep. The things his parents, village, and relatives said flashed through his mind. He signed in his heart. The thought of becoming the disciple of an immortal became heavier in his mind. Time passed by, bit by bit. A moment later, the sun gradually rose. Wang Lin didn't get much rest the whole night, but he was still full of energy. With a trace of fear, he followed fourth uncle to the main house of the Wang family. This was the first time Wang Lin had seen a house this big, leaving him in a daze. Fourth uncle said while walking, "Tiaju, you have to make your father proud. Don't let the relatives ridicule you." Wang Lin's mind became more tense. He bit his lips and nodded. Soon, fourth uncle brought him to the middle of the courtyard. Taiju's father's eldest brother was standing there. When he saw Tiaju, he nodded and said, "Tiaju, when the immortal arrives, don't freak out. Just follow your older brother Wang Zhuo. Do everything he does." The old man's tone was very harsh on those last few words. Wang Lin stayed silent. He looked around and noticed that beside Wang Zhuo, there was another youth. The youth's skin was a bit dark, his build was very large, and his eyes showed hint of intelligence. There was a bulge in his shirt, like he was hiding something. He looked at Tiaju and made a face, then ran over and said, "So you're second uncle's son? My name is Wang Hao." Wang Lin chuckled and nodded. When the old man saw Wang Lin ignoring him, he became very annoyed and was about to scold him. Right at this moment, the clouds in the sky suddenly split open. Then a sword of light suddenly descended like lightning. After the light disappeared, there stood a youth in white, whose eyes were bright and piercing, emitting an elegant spirit. His cold eyes swept across the three youths, especially at the youth with the bulge in his shirt. He asked coldly, "Are these three the ones recommended by the Wang family? This is an immortal?" Under his gaze, Wang Lin started to feel cold. His heart pounded and his face paled while staring at the immortal. The dark-skinned youth, upon seeing Immortal, placed his hands near the pockets of his pants, showing a respectful demeanor. His eyes held a fanatical expression. Only Wang Zhuo casually looked at the others and snorted. Wang Zhuo's father quickly stepped forward and respectfully said, "Immortal, these three are the Wang family's recommendations." The youth nodded and then impatiently said, "Who is Wang Zhuo?" The old man's face showed a flash of happiness. Then he quickly pulled Wang Zhuo. "Immortal, this is my son, Wang Zhuo." The immortal youth gave Wang Zhuo a deep look. Then his face brightened and he nodded. Wang Zhuo is indeed talented. No wonder martial uncle took a liking to him. Wang Zhuo proudly looked at Wang Lin and the smart-looking youth and proudly said, "This is natural. In order to become an immortal, one must have a strong spirit." The youth made a frown, but it quickly disappeared. He faintly smiled at Wang Zhuo's direction, waved his sleeves, and took the three youths on the rainbow and disappeared. Fourth uncle looked into the sky and muttered, "Taiju, you must be selected." Wang Lin felt his body lighten, and the wind hitting his face caused him pain. On closer inspection, he noticed that he was under the arm of the youth, and they were flying quickly through the sky. The village turned into little black dots as they quickly flew forward. After just a little, the wind caused his eyes to tear up and turn red. "Unless you three want to become blind, close your eyes," the youth said coldly. Wang Lin's heart tensed, and he quickly closed his eyes, afraid to keep looking. After a short period of time, Wang Lin could feel that the youth was short of breath, and his speed started decreasing. Then, in a flash, the youth quickly descended. The moment before landing, the youth loosened his arm, and the three youths fell to the ground. Thankfully, the fall wasn't hard, so the three got up quickly. In front of Wang Lin was a paradise-like scene, with mountains, flowers, and a river. It was a truly idyllic scene. Straight ahead stood a towering mountain, its peak covered in clouds that hid its true appearance. Echoes of beast cries could be heard. There was a path of twisted steps that snaked its way down the mountain, like a painting, evoking a feeling of a different world. Far off in the distance, there was a hall at the top of the mountain. Even though it was covered by the clouds, the shining bright light made people to want to worship it. Next to the hall, there was a silver-colored bridge with the shape of the crescent moon connecting that peak with another mountain peak. With these natural beauties, this was truly worthy of being the location of the Hing Yue sect. The Hing Yue sect was one of the few cultivation sects in the country of Zhao. 500 years ago, it was the leading force of cultivation sects in the country of Zhao and had several nascent soul-old monsters. However, with the passage of time, it had shrunken to its current size and was only able to barely have a foothold in the cultivation world. However, for the mortals near the Heng Yue sect, it was still an elusive figure. Little brother Zhang, are these the three candidates recommended by the Wang family? A middle-aged man dressed in black with an immortal demeanor floated down from the mountain peak. The youth showed a face full of respect and said, "Third brother, these are the Wang family's three recommended youths." The middle-aged man's gaze swept across them, focusing on Wang Zhou a few times. Smiling, he said, "I know you are about to have a breakthrough. I'll handle the test, you go cultivate." The youth agreed. Then his body moved toward the mountain and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Wang Lin stared at the scene before him, full of excitement. Suddenly, he noticed someone tugging his clothes and turned around. It was Wang Hao. Eyes filled with excitement, he said, "This is where immortals live, damn it. No matter what, I, Wang Hao, must be selected." After saying so, he touched the bulging object concealed in his shirt. Wang Zhou was dazed by the scene before him. It took a long time for him to recover his senses, and the amount of arrogance in his heart shrank. At this moment, several rainbow-colored swords flew towards them. For each sword that dissipated, there was a Heng Yue sect disciple, each followed by several 15-year-olds. There were both male and female youths. As they landed, they too had similar expressions to Wang Lin's group as they stared at the scene in front of them. All the Heng Yue sect disciples that brought the youths gathered at the side and started talking about the youths. After waiting a while, all the other youths who had been recommended arrived at the sect. A black-clad, middle-aged man scanned the area. Then he emotionlessly said, "Among the lot of you, only a few will be selected to be Heng Yue sect disciples." All of the youths cried out in shock. Wang Lin's heart shuddered. He counted a total of 48 people taking the test. Cultivation, the path to becoming an immortal, depends on your natural talent. The first test is to see whether or not your spirit is strong enough. Now, whoever I point to will come up and take the test. The middle-aged man emotionlessly pointed at a youth. The youth walked over carefully, his legs trembling. The middle-aged man put his hand on his head and said, "Not qualified. Stand to the left." The youth suddenly lost all strength. Face looking bleak and eyes blank, he moved to the left in silence. Then another youth was selected. He moved forward with a fearful expression. "Not qualified. Not qualified. Not qualified." 10 people in a row all failed the test. Up until now, there was still no one to the right of the middle-aged man. It was Wang Zhou's turn. All of his previous pride disappeared from his face. Looking pale, he stepped forward. After the middle-aged man put his hand on Wang Zhou's head, his face suddenly lit up and he asked, "What is your name?" Wang Zhou quickly replied respectfully, "Immortal, my name is Wang Zhou." The middle-aged man nodded. He then smiled and said, "So you are the one martial teacher mentioned. Good. Wang Zhou, stand to the right." Wang Zhou felt exaltation and walked toward the right under everyone's admiration. His eyes were filled with arrogance and contempt as he looked at the crowd. He felt untouchable. "Motherfucker, he is one lucky dog," Wang Hao murmured to Wang Lin while curling his lip. Wang Lin's heart became more tense. In front of his eyes rose his parents' eyes filled with expectations. He tightened his fists. "Not bad, you also stand to the right," said the middle-aged man, surprised to the young girl in front of him. After a short period of time, almost all the youths had been tested, and only 2 stood to the right of the middle-aged man. Wang Hao was up next. Wang Hao quickly ran up to the middle-aged man. Before he could even start the test, he knelt to the ground and kowtowed a few times. He said, "Immortal, may you enjoy a long life. My name is Wang Hao. You have already tested so many people, so you must be tired. Why don't you rest for a while? I'm in no rush. It's no problem." The middle-aged man laughed out loud. He had tested so many people whose faces were filled with fear. Yet this clever youth here, without the slightest bit of fear, was trying to win favor with him. He pressed his hand on Wang Hao's head and said, "Talent is lacking. Not." The moment Wang Hao heard that his spirit was lacking, his heart plummeted. Without waiting for the middle-aged man to finish, he quickly took out a jade box and presented it in front of him. Wang Hao wisely said, "Immortal, my father found this by accident in the mountain, but was unable to open it. I specially brought it to give to Immortal." The middle-aged man chuckled and shook his head. He was about to refuse Wang Hao, but as he scanned the box, his pupils suddenly contracted and his face suddenly lit up. "Not bad. This is at least a 300-year-old mushroom." Looking at the jade box, it was sealed by a cultivator. "No wonder your father couldn't open it." He paused, then said with a slightly faltering voice, "I'm in need of a helper for my alchemy. Are you willing to be my helper?" Wang Hao, surprised, got up quickly. The difference in treatment was like heaven and earth, causing him to be very excited. He exclaimed, "Yes, Immortal, I am willing." The middle-aged man said, while chuckling, "Since you'll be my helper, I won't mistreat you. You can cultivate just like the other disciples. Go stand to the right." Wang Hao was very excited inside. He ran to the right side and gave Wang Zhuo a triumphant stare. The faces of all the youths that failed turned pale. All of them felt very depressed. A few even started crying. The middle-aged man frowned. He shouted, "Send away all those who started crying." A few of the Heng Yui sect disciples stepped out. They quickly took the ones that started crying and casually disappeared in swords of light. The middle-aged man pointed at Wang Lin. Wang Lin took a deep breath. He nervously walked toward the side of the middle-aged man, his mind completely blank. Praying silently in his heart, he couldn't help but remember the expectation in his parents' eyes. "I will definitely be selected," Wang Lin thought with determination. The middle-aged man's hand pressed on his head. With a deadpan face, he said the 2 words Wang Lin dreaded the most. "Not qualified." Wang Lin didn't remember how he made it to the left side. He only heard the spring thunder roaring in his ears and the echoing of the 2 words the middle-aged man said. After a moment, everyone had been tested, and only 3 people stood to the right. In the eyes of everyone else, the 3 were insurmountable and immensely tall. Wang Zhuo looked at Wang Lin with a face full of contempt, fully expressing his disdain for him. While a strong spirit is needed to be cultivator, perseverance is even more important. Even ordinary students like you can become sect disciples if you have enough perseverance. The second test is perseverance. The middle-aged man paused, then said with a deadpan face, "Follow the steps up. If you reach the top, you are qualified. If you're not finished within 3 days, you fail. Those who fail will be returned to their families. If you cannot endure any longer or meet danger, just yell out loud and someone will come and save you." The middle-aged man smiled to the 3 on his right and said, "You 2, follow me to meet the patriarch. We will also find you masters. Wang Hao, you don't need to go. Come with me to the alchemy house to get used to the place." After the middle-aged man finished giving instructions, he took the 3 selected youths and disappeared into the mountains. Wang Lin took a deep breath, eyes full of determination. He walked up the stone steps with no hesitation and started the test of perseverance. Minus the 3 selected youths and the 6 crying youths who were taken away, 39 remained. Among these 39 youths, the ones that were very depressed, the ones very determined, and those who were scared all walked towards their own futures. The uneven stone steps were very dangerous on both sides. The slightest mistake would cause one to slip and fall. After less than half a day, Wang Lin's legs felt like they were made of lead. He was sweaty and out of breath. It was difficult to even move. Looking up from the bottom of the mountain, The trail didn't seem long, but now this trail felt like it had no end. Wang Lin's heart sank. He could not help but generate thoughts of despair. In front of him, there were a dozen physically strong boys, slowly climbing. They were all also out of breath. Until now, no one had given up. Wang Lin gritted his teeth. He knew this was his last chance. His parents' expectations filled his mind. At that very moment, the foot of a boy behind him slipped. The boy fell off the side of the mountain with a scream. "I give up! Help!" Everybody stopped to look down at the same time and saw a dark light flashing by. A Hung Yue sect disciple appeared out of nowhere and grabbed the boy. Their bodies could be seen gently falling to the foot of the mountain. Wang Lin was pale and silent. He carefully continued climbing upwards. Time seemed to be passing much more slowly. 2 days later, he could see the shadows of the dozen of youths in front of him. Wang Lin didn't know how many of these companions would give up. He only knew that he must not give up. His feet were bleeding and swelling. He felt a terrible tingling every step he took. He still persisted and used his hands to climb. A middle-aged man with a sickly complexion floated down the stairs from the top of the mountain. "Little children, keep your hearts strong, for this path is ruthless. It won't be in vain. Nothing is in vain." He let out a lengthy sigh as he floated down past the climbing youths. The middle-aged man passed Wang Lin. This was the 6th youth he passed by, and he was the most pathetic of the bunch. With clothes soaked with blood, he seemed to be bleeding everywhere. His knees and toes were mangled. Wang Lin was climbing using his hands at this point. The middle-aged man sighed loudly and asked, "My child, what is your name?" Wang Lin's vision was blurry. The only thought in his head was to reach the top or die. He didn't even hear the middle-aged man's question. In his eyes, this little trail was the only thing that mattered. The middle-aged man looked at Wang Lin's eyes. Deep down, he was rather moved. He put his hand on Wang Lin's head. "This boy has amazing perseverance. It's too bad he lacks talent. What a waste, what a waste." He gave Wang Lin a deep look, then continued to descend the steps. The next night, Wang Lin's hands were bloody. He left a trail of blood as he climbed the stairs. He did not know how he kept going, but something kept fueling his body to go on. He felt like he could die at any time. The sun rose on the 3rd day. In the distance, Wang Lin could just barely make out the end of the stone steps. Unfortunately, with the end in sight, he heard a thunderous voice that shook his heart. "Time is up. Only 3 have qualified. The rest failed." Wang Lin let out a small, bitter laugh. He looked down while his body was slanting down on the stairs. His consciousness completely faded. The black-clad middle-aged man from 3 days ago stood on top of the mountain. He was looking at Wang Lin from less than 50 meters away, with a ruthless look in his eyes. A few Heng Yue sect disciples went down from the top of the mountain. They each stopped next to one of the youths on the way down and fed them medicine. A female Heng Yue sect disciple said in a cold voice, "Seniors, out of 39 testers, 25 gave up. Only 3 passed the test and 11 remain." She had also experienced this brutal test. She relied on the martial arts she had practiced since she was a child to pass. She barely had enough perseverance. Even now, after 10 years of effort, she still hadn't become a true disciple. The black-clad middle-aged man had an icy look in his eyes. He slightly nodded while his eyes swept past the 11 unconscious teenagers. "Take the 3 that qualified and find work for them to do in the future. Send the 25s that gave up back to their families. As for the last 11 people, wait for them to wake up. Send them together to the House of the Sword Spirit to see if any of them have spiritual affinity with the Sword Spirit. If they don't, send them home." After the middle-aged man was finished here, he walked away without another glance, and the youth below. 3 days later, at the House of the Sword Spirit, stood 11 teenagers with pale faces. The injuries all over Wang Lin's body were already healed, but the wound in his heart was still gaping open. The pain of his failure kept eating away at his mind and body. This test of the spirit of the sword was conducted not by the black-clad middle-aged man, but by a man wearing white, someone they hadn't seen before. He had the same cold, ruthless look in his eyes. He looked at the youths as if they were ants. The man said, with an impatient look, "This is the last test. If you can walk into this room, you are qualified." All Wang Lin saw was an extremely common building. The front door of the building was open. When he looked inside, He could see swords of different lengths. Each of the youths, one by one, walked towards the house. The first one that approached got within 5 meters of the house. His face went red as he struggled to get closer, but was expelled by an invisible force. "Unqualified! Next," said the man in white. Wang Lin was the 7th in line. The 6 before him all met the same fate, expelled by an invisible force when they got within 5 meters of the house. He smiled bitterly, and with the last bit of hope in his heart, stepped forward. As he approached the 5-meter mark, Wang Lin was able to keep going with ease. His heart was beating rapidly with anticipation. He stepped closer, 1 meter more. He wasn't feeling any discomfort yet. The white-clothed man let out a surprised, "Hey!" His eyes were bright, and his face showed slight interest. He gently said, "Don't hesitate to continue. Keep walking towards the house of the Spirit of the Sword. If you are recognized by the Spirit of the Sword, you will be accepted as a true disciple, even if you failed the 2 previous tests." The 10 other teenagers standing there had the color of envy in their faces. They were deeply jealous of Wang Lin. Wang Lin was very tense on the inside. The looks his parents gave him flashed through his mind again as he stepped 1 meter closer to the door. There were only 3 meters remaining to reach the door. Wang Lin took another step. He suddenly felt a huge force rush in his direction. Wang Lin lost control of his body and was sent flying more than 10 meters away. The rest of the youths all looked at Wang Lin with mocking expressions in their eyes. They thought that Wang Lin was just like them after all, with no chance. With a bitter laugh, Wang Lin could feel the gaping wounds in his heart grow bigger. His parents' expectant eyes gradually dissipated from his mind. The man in white's eyes turned cold again, and he said, "Failed. Next." Finally, thank you everyone for listening to Renegade Immortal. See you next episode.